Before I begin, big shout out to Ken John for sharing this comment. Right after Rick and Morty's big Season 3 premiere, we saw the fall of not only the Citadel of Ricks, but also the Galactic Federation. However, episodes passed by and we got to see the restructuring of the Citadel of Ricks, and now it is being run by Evil Morty. But what about the Galactic Federation? Will we see more of the Galactic Federation, or even the reconstructing of the Federation, just like how we saw the Citadel being rebuilt up? In this video, I'll be talking about the likes of what if the Galactic Federation kind of had their own standalone episode. Now, similar to the Rick-Lantis mix-up, there would have to be some sort of way to introduce the Galactic Federation in a way that ties in with Rick and Morty. In my opinion, I believe it could start with Rick looking back at old pictures of his best friends, Squanchy and Birdperson. Then it could zoom on to Birdperson's face, only to transition fade to Phoenixperson's face, where we will have the current whereabouts of Tammy and Phoenixperson. This episode could be widely on the journey where Tammy and Birdperson try to find Rick, and along the way there are short plots that the two have to deal with. Or even similar to the Rick-Lantis mix-up, we could have the Federation rebuild itself with the remaining members and hold an election onto who would win, thus bringing in Tammy as their new leader. However, I think it's pretty clear that Tammy is the new leader, hinted at the post-credit scene of the Rick Shank Redemption episode. But if I had the chance to write the episode myself, this is how I would do it. After Birdperson and Tammy do their Galactic Federation things, I like to assume that their main goals are to get revenge at Rick and rebuild at what they once had. Within the episode, I wouldn't want a full episode for Tammy and Phoenixperson, so I'd make that the A plot, where Rick and Morty's story is the B plot. However, I'd want the B plot for Rick and Morty to include flashbacks of him and Birdperson, then after each flashback have a transition fade of the past time to current time where Phoenixperson and Tammy are doing their own thing. An example of this would be Rick is probably throwing away some old stuff and comes across an old weapon that him and Birdperson used to fight off the Galactic Federation. The flashback comes in and it's Rick, Squanchy, and Birdperson using that weapon to fight off some Gromflamites. They have their usual dialogue, and then after that the transition fade comes in and it's the current timeline of Phoenixperson, and he comes in and it's similar to the flashback, except it's Phoenixperson using some sort of weapon to fight off innocent people in the way of Tammy and himself. I would write this in because this would intertwine the A plot and B plot later on, and also we get to hit two birds with one stone where we see the whereabouts of Phoenixperson and the past of Rick. Going back to what I said of intertwining the A plot and B plot, near the end of Rick and Morty's B plot, it would have Tammy breaking into Rick's garage speaking about how Rick ruined everything and that he will pay for all his shit. After a good minute of back and forth, Rick mocks her, saying that she has nothing to stop him. In comes Birdperson, who introduces himself as Phoenixperson, which gives Rick a shock. Rick isn't shown to show a lot of his emotional side, but after going through the B-plot of him going through memory lane and thinking about his best friend, this would give Rick one emotional shock. I would write Rick to be more sad, but also angry, not towards Birdperson, but to Tammy. He'd want to know why she's doing this and find a way to stop him. Now, for some, they may make Rick the overpowered guy in this story and end Tammy within the end of the episode. However, with the whopping 70 episode renewal, I feel like this would be a two-parter. I wouldn't really make this the season finale though, because then it would be similar to Wedding Squanchers and Rick Shank Redemption. So how I would play this out is Tammy would know how Rick would react, which makes it easier for her to capture him, and we would have to wait for the next episode to see what happens next. Morty and Summer and the rest of the family would be elsewhere because the ending of part 1 would be a way for Rick to reflect on the past alone. So now for part 2, it would be more of an escape early on and then ending up on Squanchy's home planet. This would be because I assume Tammy would have a ship ready to bring Rick in wherever they want to take him to, like the new Federation they're building up. And then along the way, they pass Squanchy's home planet, and somewhere along the lines, we get some revelation of what happened to Squanchy by Tammy and Phoenixperson having a conversation of their own. After Rick's escape from the ship and landing on Squanchy's planet, he'd land on the same place the wedding occurred, except it's all destroyed and a little deteriorated. Here we'll see Squanchy all battle damaged and a little worn out, explaining the events of what happened after Rick left. Now before I continue on, the B-plot would be back on Earth where Morty is trying to find Rick, but Jerry, being the new family lead, insists that they should have some family quality time without Rick once in a while. This plot would carry on with Jerry trying his best to be a good father to the family by doing activities and bringing them out as a family and such. Now back to the A-plot, Tammy and Birdperson would end up finding Rick and Squanchy, which would create some sort of 2v2 battle or 2v Galactic Federation battle. Along the lines here, I have some sort of alternate choices where Squanchy ends up to be part of the Federation, but I feel that would be a little too much. But for my main choice, this battle would include Gromflamites, Rick, Phoenix Person, Squanchy, Tammy, and a lot of bloodshed. It would end up with Rick prevailing over the Gromflamites and Tammy, only to come face to face with Phoenix Person. He'd have some sort of trying to talk him down, but it wouldn't work and Phoenix Person would overpower Rick. Just before Phoenix Person is about to kill him, however, Squanchy sacrifices himself in order to save Rick, and that would trigger something within Phoenix Person. He has some sort of flashback and such, but just doing that, Tammy rises up about to kill Rick herself, only to be killed by her lover. This would be a perfect ending to the whole Tammy and Bird Person saga, where he gets his own revenge for ruining his life. Rick would be a bit proud of Bird Person returning, but in the end the two would look at Squanchy on the ground who was dying. He speaks about some stuff and the good times and says that Rick and Bird Person were meant to be BFFs. The story would conclude with Rick and Phoenix Person carrying the body of Squanchy and have them walk into the sunset. The after credit scenes would be where Rick returns to the garage where Morty asks him where he's been. He does his usual joke or some stuff and drops a photo onto the floor after walking past Morty. Morty picks it up and it's Rick and Bird Person in a hospital with Squanchy in the bed. This would conclude the story with the Galactic Federation, the story of Tammy and Bird Person, and the revelation of Squanchy all in one. And that is how I would write the episode for the Galactic Federation story. I wanted to tie in the love story of Bird Person and Tammy as well as Squanchy, as those characters are the main characters of the Galactic Federation plot. I would probably place these episodes somewhere between the season, like episode 6 and 7, depending on how much they want to make for the season. Nonetheless, with 70 episodes renewed, there has to be space for the story of the Galactic Federation. And writing this episode, it would also tackle the past of Rick, but not too much of his past, but more of the past of what happened between the Galactic Federation and the Rebels, which included Bird Person, Squanchy, and himself. After that, there would be more of the explanation with Eva Morty's story, but that's for another time. So the question of the day is, if you had the opportunity to write an episode for Rick and Morty, would you do it? Leave your answer in the comment section down below. My name is UnFamous, and I hope you enjoyed the video.